Hi Cal Poly, it's me, Antoni, and I'm here to teach you how to make a quick, an easy, a delicious dinner. So I have about like 15 to 20 minutes to make this. I was doing a series on my Instagram called Quarai, and now I'm doing one with Netflix called Show Me What You're Working With, where I basically try to do the same thing, but those are edited, and I wanted to make something for you that's à la minute, which in French means to the minute, where you literally like start and stop and finish, and there's no editing. So I'm kind of making this live, except it's pre-recorded, which means it's not live, but anyway, you get the point. So full disclosure, this is a dish that I made on Queer Eye, but it was edited down to like 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes, and I really don't feel like people got to learn like the true technique on how to make this dish. Why don't I stop talking about this dish and tell you what it actually is? It's pasta carbonara. It's one of my very favorite things. For a really long time I thought it was like this super Italian thing, but then when I started Googling it and searching the interwebs, I realized that it's kind of like chicken parm. Apparently it's not really Italian. It's like Italian-American, and there's like a lot of debate as to where it actually started. But anyways, regardless, it's something that uses ingredients that most of you will probably have on hand, at least I really hope you do. But if not, there's so many tweaks that you can make, so I'm going to try to throw in little bits of information there as we go, and like little swaps that you can make. So, but the basics that you are going to need for this are eggs at room temperature, which I'm going to explain why later. I keep mine, because I try to channel Martha Stewart, outside of the fridge, because I go through them very quickly, and I don't worry about them going bad. You need, in a perfect world, you would have equal amounts, like 1 ounce each of Pecorino Romano and then Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano is like sweet and nutty, and then Pecorino Romano is it's a lot sharper, and it's like a whiter cheese, but it's also very like dense and like really salty, concentrated in flavor, and really delicious. But you know what? All I have is parm today, and in quarantine we're just doing the best with what we have, so that's what we're gonna do. If all you have is parm, that's great, and if all you have is pecorino, it's gonna be sharp AF, but that's totally fine too. But that said, although substitutions are good, I wouldn't go for like a cheddar or anything like that. Like, try to get the parm or the pecorino, or in a perfect world, a mix of both. And then I need loads of fresh cracked pepper. Little PSA. I have a lot of pet peeves, but one thing that drives me crazy is pepper that's already ground. It doesn't taste as good. This isn't an endorsement, but like Trader Joe's, this stuff is cheap, and they're whole black peppercorns with their own little grinder. And if you don't have a grinder, but if you do have peppercorns, you can put them in like a mortar, pestle, or a bowl, and just like crush them with like a little mallet, or even with the back end of a spoon and a napkin on a wooden cutting board. But fresh pepper is really important here. And then our other ingredient is pasta water. Not technically an ingredient, it's more of like a byproduct of something we're going to be making, but I'm going to talk to you about why pasta water is the most amazing thing ever, and it makes every sauce just freaking awesome. So I have a medium pot here that's boiling with water, which I'm going to salt. Don't gasp. I'm putting in a shit ton of salt, but it's really important, and know that most of it is going to end up staying in. It's to flavor the pasta. You want it to taste like the ocean. That's a lot. And a little more. Perfect. Just use regular salt. Don't use like the fancy stuff for this, because it's kind of it goes wasted on it. So while the water is preparing and it's boiling, the pasta I'm using today, my favorite is like bucatini is really nice, but you can use like a bow tie. You can make penne. You can make orecchietti, which means little baby ears. Any pasta you like, really. But spaghetti is what it's traditionally made with. Again, not an endorsement. I'm just obsessed with this stuff. I'm usually a purist, and I'm not really into pasta alternatives, and I like the real stuff. But Banza's really freaking delicious. It's not that much more expensive than regular pasta, and it's really high in protein, and it's lower in carbs. But really, use whatever the heck you want. The only thing with this is, and you're going to see me do it later, with regular pasta, I never rinse it after cooking it. But with this stuff you have to, because it tends, a lot of pasta alternatives, like ones that aren't made with traditional flour and egg or water those you don't want to rinse. But this you do, because it gets gummy. So let's see, what are the instructions on here? 8 to 10 minutes until firm. So I'm going to set my timer. 8 minutes. I like mine al dente so that it has a nice little bite, and the pasta is actually going to finish up in the sauce, so you don't have to fully cook it. So you still want it to have a bite because you don't want it to like fall apart. So I'm going to put this in. Use the whole container because what's portion control? Oh, it's always so dramatic taking the pasta out. Great. Put that in there. And the first minute is really important because you want to make sure that all the pasta gets in there so that it cooks evenly at the same time. So you just, come on little guys. Great. Another thing I learned about Banza pasta, it foams up a lot when it cooks. So this thing may overflow, we may have a really dramatic situation on our hands, but hopefully not. I'll try to pay attention. But I'm doing a lot here. I'm manning a camera, I'm trying to teach you about a recipe, and I'm just trying not to screw it up because I just want to be good. Don't we all want to be good? Great. So that's mixing up in there. Awesome. Okay. And while this boils, I'm going to lower the heat just a little bit, and we're going to get started. So, typically, carbonara is made with guanciale, which is a cured pork jowl. I assume that 99% of you will not have that in your fridge, but do you know what you may have? Pancetta, which is basically uncured pork, or its other cousin, the cured version, bacon. I always have bacon in my fridge, and after I use a few slices during my Sunday brunch that I tend to have with pancakes with maple syrup, I end up putting it in the freezer and then I use it for other things. Pancetta is a really good thing to use if you don't have guanciale or regular bacon. And basically you're going to want to cut it up into little pieces. I'm Canadian, so I want to say like 1 centimeter, which is I think like 1/3 of an inch. But basically I had a little wheel of pancetta. I just go to my deli section, and instead of having it cut into thin slices, I just ask them for one little slab of it. It's not super pricey, it's a great thing to add to sauces, soups, and stews. And I did these nice little cute cubes, like these. So I cut those up. And then, if you have a regular saute pan, that's totally fine. But this one is a little higher, so it's easier because we're going to be putting in the pasta into it. I just clocked the pasta and I saw that it was starting to foam and I got a little nervous, but it's good because I lowered the heat a little bit, so we're doing okay. I just want to mix it around sporadically. I just thought of Clueless, hopefully not sporadically. Don't know if any of you get that reference, but you should watch the movie. It's really great, Alicia Silverstone. Mix that around. And now on a pan that is nice and hot, I preheated this. It's starting to sizzle a little. And so this is basically, I think it's the equivalent of somewhere between like 4 to 6 slices of bacon, because I don't measure. It's basically like a heaping handful. So take the pancetta into the pan. And the purpose of this, pancetta and bacon are so fatty you don't have to add any oil or any butter to get started because there's plenty to work with already. And then on medium, if you have like a less powerful stove, then you want to do like medium, high. We want to render all the fat. So we want all the fat to basically melt out, have like a nice little pool, which is going to help with our sauce, and the meat to get really nice and crispy. I tend to be a bit of an extreme person, so I like it when bacon is like just 30 seconds before it burns and gets black, and it's like a nice golden crispy texture. Because one of my pet peeves, I know I have a lot of them, is when you're biting into bacon and you get like that chewy fat. I like it when fat just kind of like melts on your lips and you get that salt that hits it, and it's just a really nice feeling. So we toss this around. It's gonna cook pretty quickly. So our pasta is cooking. We have about 4 minutes left. Great. Pancetta is sizzling. Now we're ready to make our egg sauce. Weird thing to say, but it makes sense. So, I've tried this different ways. I've tried doing it where I do 3 yolks and 1 whole egg, but my happy place is when it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So basically for every egg, you want to use an extra egg yolk. So I'm going to crack these in. And room temperature is really perfect because I'm going to talk about tempering in a second. Don't worry, we'll get there. So you crack the egg. Boom. 1 egg. 2 egg. And then if you've never separated a yolk from a white, you basically crack it, and then in an extra bowl, crack right over, keeping the yolk in. I really hope you can see this. And you just switch the yolk from one shell to the other until all the whites have gone. And you don't have to waste these whites too. You can throw them in your omelet or your scrambled eggs the next day. They'll sit in your fridge for a couple of days. So I add that yolk, perfect. And I need one more. Did you crack it hard enough? And again, separate it. Oh, that's a big fat yolk. Perfect. All right, so egg whites, I'm gonna keep these for another time. We wanna check on our pancetta. It's getting nice and crispy. It's getting a nice little sizzle going on. I really hope you can see that. Oh, it smells so nice. Perfect. That's going to go for just a little longer. And then, so again, we have 2 whole eggs and we have 2 egg yolks in here. We're going to add our parm. So basically you want about 2 ounces total, and 1 ounce grated is basically, it's like somewhere between a quarter cup and a third cup packed into like a little measuring thing. But to be 100% honest, I've never measured this because I hate measuring and I can't be bothered to do it. You just know you want a lot of cheese. So I grated this. Here's another tip. If you have different holes on your box grater, use the finest hole because it's going to be a lot easier for the cheese to melt. It takes a little longer and a little more care, but it's really going to make for a better dish at the end because you don't want lumps of cheese. You want it to be mixed all in the sauce together. Perfect. The pancetta's almost ready. So is our pasta. And now, take our cheese, add it to the egg. Great. Ooh! Little sizzle. And then, where is my whisk? Where is my whisk? There it is. I gotta rinse it out. Perfect. I'm going to interrupt the whisking because we need to remove our pancetta. So, what you want to do is, this stuff is ready to go, and you're going to take the pancetta and put it in a bowl, but leave that really nice pork fat. That's my timer going off for the pasta. We are moving quickly. I'm going to leave the burner on because I want it to be nice and warm when I'm going to put my egg sauce and the pasta back in this pan, but I'm going to move it to the side so that nothing burns. Now, the pasta's ready. Here's a really important thing. We want to reserve some pasta water. So don't just dump it all into your colander. Here's my colander. Placing it in the sink so that it's ready. Grab another bowl. Great. So now over the sink, I don't know if you can see this or not, I'm basically reserving some of the pasta water. 2 cups should be more than enough. I'd rather have more than not enough. And then the rest of the pasta I pour in. Oh, it's hot. So again, reminder, if you're using regular pasta, do not strain it. If you're using an alternative pasta like a brown rice or whatever the situation is, you definitely want to, do not rinse it. This stuff you definitely want to rinse because we don't want it to be gummy. So I'm going to pour a little bit of cold water over it. Get the noodles all separated. Not too much because we want them to stay warm. We're done with this part. And now we're going to whisk up our egg and cheese mixture. So we want it to become nice and incorporated. Perfect. The cheese helps break down the white and the yolk. Look at that beautiful color. The rosso. It's like the rosso of the egg, the yolk. Great. This is going to seem aggressive, but you really want to put a shit ton of pepper in here. It's very important. Fresh, cracked. So we go ahead and I start putting that over the egg mixture. It's a lot, I told you. Okay, mix that in. Now, here's the thing. We're using room temperature eggs because we don't want them to be cold, because if you add cold eggs to anything hot, they're going to cook and they're going to become scrambled eggs. That is not what we want. We want to fully cook the eggs, but we want them to stay liquidy because they serve as a creamy sauce. Cue the pasta water. So, little by little. Oh, there it is. There she is. Just add a little ladle of the pasta water to your egg mixture. And what we're basically doing is tempering now. By adding a hot liquid and mixing it in, we're slowly increasing the temperature of the eggs. I'm left-handed, so this is so awkward to do. One more of these should be enough. And if you whisk it while you do it, the eggs aren't going to cook and they're not going to curdle. Well, they are going to cook, but they're not going to curdle is actually the point. Perfect. And just in case, I'm going to keep that pasta water because I may want to add it back again after. So it's definitely a lot thinner than it was. We have our eggs, our cheese, our pasta water. And now we want to put our pan, all that beautiful fat, that's going to be amazing for the pasta. If you have too much, you can take some out, but try to leave it on the side because then you may want to add it back in again afterwards. Oh, and by the way, vegetarians, so sorry, if you're going to skip the whole pancetta bacon situation because you don't eat pork, or for whatever reason you don't eat pork, breadcrumbs are a really good alternative. I wonder anchovies could be really nice too, actually, if they were crispy. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's a whole other dish altogether. I was thinking of something else. But anyway, if you have bread that's stale, basically, or if it's not stale, just bake it for a little bit until it gets crummy, and then just pound it down in a bag with like a mallet or something, or throw it into a food processor. And little toasted breadcrumbs will add really nice texture. And who doesn't love a carb-on-carb pasta with breadcrumbs? So, this is basically ready to go. Now I have my pot of pasta. I'm going to put it back in here. Whew! That is hot. Grab my little wooden spoon. This Bonda stuff is really good. I highly recommend it. The pasta's absorbed all that pretty quickly. We want to lower the heat to like a medium low. Our pancetta goes back in. Great. Little speckles of crispy pork. And then, this is a little dry, so I'm going to add some pasta water in here. Perfect. And now we are ready to add our egg mix. Slowly put it in. Not all at once. And just keep mixing as you go, and the pasta is going to absorb a lot of that. Oh, beautiful. It's turning into a sauce so quickly. I try to pour it onto the pasta, not directly onto the pan. Get all the pepper out. That is done. I want a little more pasta water. See, that's why it's good to keep it. So you can always thin out your sauce afterwards. It's surprising, but pasta absorbs a lot of sauce. And that starchy water from the pasta water is going to act as like a really nice thickener for this sauce. Perfect. It's steaming, but it's not bubbling. That's exactly what we're looking for. Turn off the heat. We don't need it to cook anymore. Even gonna add more pasta water. I like it really saucy. And there's no extra salt that's needed here because the cheese is already salty enough and your pasta water already did enough too. So, look at that. So the eggs did not curdle. Nice, thick, cheesy, bacony sauce. And then, in a bowl here, I put in a little bit of hot water earlier. Save the water for some tea. No need to waste, even in a pandemic. The bowl is nice and warm, so it's going to keep the pasta nice and warm. And then I'm going to grab my tongs. Oh, beautiful. I want to make sure I get a lot of those bacon bits. And because I grated the cheese so nice and thin, it's just incorporated beautifully into this whole mix, and it's this nice little creamy situation. If you want to amp this up on Queer Eye, it's not a secret to anybody, I'm obsessed with frozen peas. You can thaw them out and throw them in here. You can grate some zucchini in here if you want, or just serve it with a nice little simple salad. There's plenty of cheese. Shockingly, I don't add any extra cheese on mine, but you can grate a little more, or if you're like me, a little bit more pepper, because why not? I need a fork. That's how easy it was. You have a beautiful little bowl of pasta carbonara. TBD whether it's Italian or American, who knows? Should I be eating it when it's this hot and steamy? No, but it's kind of weird if I make the food and if I don't eat it, right? It's so good. And because there's cheese and there's pasta water and you get a bit of that pancetta fat in there, it doesn't taste too eggy in a really good way. It's just a really nice creamy sauce. And you're definitely getting your fix of omega-3s from those yolks. No shortage there. One more bite. So damn good. That was it. Easy peasy. Thank you so much. See you soon.